May 8, 1942. Midway Atoll. The horizon is a thin ribbon of smoke and fire. You can almost taste the salt on your lips, mixed with the acrid sting of aviation fuel. USS Yorktown rocks gently in the swell, but beneath her steel hull, chaos rages. Deck plates are warped, radar towers lean at impossible angles, and the echoes of exploding bombs still vibrate through the carrier's skeleton. Captain Elliot Buckmaster strides the flight deck, his face streaked with soot. Around him, sailors and Marines are crawling over twisted metal, dragging hoses, extinguishing flare-ups that pop like angry firecrackers. Engines sputter, some silent, some growling like wounded animals. The ship has taken a beating in the Battle of the Coral Sea. Torpedoes ripped through her starboard side, and aerial bombs tore open flight decks. Most naval officers would have declared her a loss. Most. But not these men, not this crew. They move with a strange mixture of desperation and certainty, as if they can hear the pulse of the war itself in the metal underfoot. Sparks fly from welding torches, slicing through smoke like fireflies. Every hammer blow rings like a drumbeat of defiance. You can almost feel it, the weight of what's riding on their shoulders. Every repair, every improvised patch carries the life of the ship and the lives of thousands depending on her. And then there's the question that haunts them all. Could they make her fight-ready again? Could Yorktown, bleeding and battered, rise from the ashes fast enough to intercept the Japanese fleet at Midway? It seems impossible. 72 hours. That's all they have. A young machinist named Samuel "Sammy" Lewis leans over a mangled engine block, sweat dripping into his eyes. He mutters something under his breath. You catch it. If we don't get her moving, they'll be here before we even see them. Above, a carrier plane tilts in the wind, wings battered but still intact. It waits patient like a coiled spring. The crew knows that Yorktown isn't just a ship, she's a gamble, a message, a weapon that might arrive in time to change everything. But can they really pull it off? The sun barely rises, yet the decks are alive with frantic motion. Sparks rain from welding torches like fireworks, smoke curling into the salty breeze. Every man has a role and every second counts. The clock is merciless. 72 hours, they keep repeating. 72 hours to take a ship shattered by torpedoes and bombs and turn her into a fighting machine again. Lieutenant Commander John "Jack" Harlan yells orders over the roar of engines and clanging metal. Patch that port bulkhead. Get the auxiliary generators online. We don't have time for perfection. His voice cracks, but it carries. Across the deck, sailors run hoses to douse lingering flames. Marines stack sandbags and brace weakened gun mounts. Even the ship's cats, usually prowling in quiet corners, are startled, slinking along warped deck plates, sensing the chaos around them. Below decks, the engine room is a furnace. Boiler operators sweat through thick coveralls, replacing ruptured pipes and manually cranking valves that no one imagined could be repaired in hours, let alone days. Sparks fly. Steam hisses. Every corner smells of oil, burnt wiring, and determination. You can feel it in your chest, the pounding rhythm of a crew refusing to accept defeat. Up on the flight deck, planes damaged in Coral Sea skirmishes are being stripped, rewired, and rearmed. Mechanics work with the precision of surgeons, improvising where blueprints fail. Every bolt tightened, every engine tested, carries the weight of the Pacific War itself. The Japanese don't know it yet, but a storm is building, a storm they won't expect. And then the unthinkable happens. A violent gust tears across the deck, sending unsecured debris flying like shrapnel. A torpedo fragment teeters on the edge, threatening to collapse into the engine room. For a heart-stopping second, time freezes. And then Jack Harlan yells, "Hold her steady. Don't let her break us now." The crew steels themselves. Every man knows the unspoken truth. If Yorktown doesn't rise, the Japanese will take the advantage at Midway. And history, as everyone knows it, could change forever. By the second day, Yorktown looks more like a battlefield than a ship. Decks are scarred with gashes, charred timber, and twisted steel. Yet, against all odds, men are moving with mechanical precision, welding, hammering, and improvising solutions no one thought possible. You can almost hear the ship itself groaning under the strain, but it refuses to die. Chief Petty Officer Frank Murphy crawls into the engine room, where a shattered turbine waits like a corpse. With only a handful of spare parts, he and his team begin a patchwork replacement, drilling, grinding, and fitting pieces together that weren't meant to fit. Every spark threatens fire. Every misstep could flood the compartment or stall the engines permanently. And yet they persist. Each repaired pipe, each reconnected circuit is a tiny victory in the larger battle for survival. Above, the flight deck crews are working miracles of their own. Planes are being refitted faster than anyone imagined. Propellers rotate under the hands of young mechanics who hold their breath as engines roar to life. The sound is deafening, but for the first time there is a rhythm, a heartbeat of hope. The aircraft, battered but not broken, are rising again, ready to fight. And then there's the unexpected challenge. The list of the ship has worsened. Torrential rain beats down on men already soaked in sweat. Water pools along the decks, threatening the fragile repairs below. Orders are shouted over the wind, but the crew doesn't flinch. They have no time for hesitation, only action. Somewhere on the bridge, Captain Buckmaster watches, calculating, praying. Every repair completed brings them closer, but still, it feels like a gamble against fate. Could this patched-together carrier really make it back into the fight? Could the Japanese fleet be stunned by what they thought was a lost ship? As night falls, the Yorktown creaks under the weight of exhaustion, but the impossible is slowly becoming possible. And somewhere in Tokyo, Japanese intelligence is unaware that their expectations are about to be shattered. May 11, 1942. Dawn breaks over Midway Atoll. You can almost feel the chill in the wind as Yorktown's decks glisten with rainwater and oil. Smoke still curls from patched bulkheads, but engines hum with an almost defiant life. The impossible has happened. In 72 relentless hours, a carrier that should have been dead is ready to sail. Captain Buckmaster walks the deck, boots clanging against metal, inspecting every repair. He stops, touches a welded seam, and lets out a long breath. Around him, sailors check guns, prepare planes, and strap themselves into stations, each movement precise, rehearsed, determined. The air vibrates with anticipation. Tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every man knows what's at stake. Every man knows history is waiting for them. From the horizon, lookouts spot the approaching Japanese fleet, silent, unaware, confident. They have been told the Yorktown is crippled, sidelined, irrelevant. But they do not see her now. She rises, scarred but defiant, engines roaring, ready to launch aircraft that could turn the tide of the Pacific. Lieutenant Commander Harlan gives the order. All aircraft launch at will. Bombers roar to life, taking the sky with precision, each plane a testament to human ingenuity, sweat, and courage. The Japanese, scanning through binoculars, cannot believe their eyes. A carrier they thought destroyed is fighting again, its planes ready to strike. Stunned disbelief ripples through their command. Below decks, Chief Murphy wipes soot from his face, eyes wide. He knows that every bolt, every welded seam, every sleepless hour has led to this moment. They have beaten the odds, beaten expectation, and in doing so, rewritten what the enemy believed possible. And in that instant, a realization strikes everyone aboard Yorktown. The battle is not yet won, but the game has changed. The Japanese had underestimated the Americans. They assumed defeat was guaranteed. They were wrong, dead wrong. Halfway across the Pacific in a command room in Tokyo, Japanese officers huddle over reports and maps. Radios crackle, officers shout, and teacups tremble on lacquered tables. Then the message comes in. USS Yorktown operational. Engaged at Midway. There is silence, then disbelief. Eyes widen, fingers tremble. Admiral Chuichi Nagumo can scarcely believe what he is reading. How could a carrier, declared crippled and out of action just 3 days ago, now sail into battle, fully armed and ready to strike? For a moment, the room seems to freeze, as if time itself has stopped. The war they thought they understood suddenly feels uncertain, fragile, and terrifying. Back on Yorktown, the crew senses it too. Pilots roar down the deck, catapults firing planes into the sky. Guns roar in salute, their barrels trained on the distant horizon. Every movement is a declaration. We are here. We are alive. We are not to be underestimated. The Japanese fleet, confident and calculating, will soon find out the cost of misjudging resolve and ingenuity. And yet, even in victory, tension claws at the crew. Each man knows the Japanese fleet is still formidable. Yorktown is operational, yes, but she is only one piece in a deadly game of strategy, aircraft, and firepower. The coming hours will demand courage, skill, and a little luck. Somewhere high above, a Japanese scout plane spots the carrier and the shock is immediate. Orders are shouted. Attack plans are hastily revised. For the first time, the enemy realizes that a miracle has occurred and that it may cost them dearly. Yorktown has risen from the dead. But the question lingers. Can a ship repaired in 72 hours truly withstand the storm it has been thrust into? By mid-morning, Yorktown is leading the charge. Her decks are alive with motion as fighter planes and dive bombers streak into the sky, engines screaming, wings slicing the clouds. You can almost feel the vibration through the hull, the heartbeat of a ship that refused to die. Every man on board is keyed into the rhythm. Pilots adjusting their controls, gunners tracking invisible enemies, sailors gripping rails as the carrier lists slightly under the weight of ordnance and fuel. The Japanese fleet, still reeling from the shock of her reappearance, scrambles planes of its own. But the Americans have the element of surprise. Yorktown's planes dive into formations, bombs tearing into decks and hangars, strafing fire cutting through anti-aircraft positions. The enemy expected a crippled carrier. What they got was a storm of steel and fire, orchestrated by a ship that should have been ashes. Captain Buckmaster watches from the bridge, binoculars raised. Sweat drips down his face, mixing with the soot and rain. He can see the panic rippling across the enemy formations. Every maneuver, every strike, is a small masterpiece of timing and precision. You feel the intensity, the electricity in the air, as if the fate of the Pacific itself rides on these moments. In the engine rooms, Chief Murphy and his team continue to monitor pressure gauges and fuel lines. The ship may be alive, but she is still fragile. Every warning light, every hiss of steam, could be a reminder that the miracle was just the beginning. One misstep now could undo all 72 hours of relentless effort. And then a distant explosion rocks the carrier, shaking her steel skeleton. A Japanese bomb lands perilously close. The crew freezes for a heartbeat, and you can almost hear their collective intake of breath. But the repairs hold. Yorktown endures. The miracle is proving stronger than anyone dared imagine. By midday, the battle reaches a fever pitch. Yorktown's fighters streak through the skies like silver arrows, intercepting Japanese bombers before they can reach the American fleet. You can almost hear the roar of engines, the rattle of machine guns, the thunder of anti-aircraft fire slicing the air. Every strike, every maneuver, is a pulse in the living heartbeat of a ship that should not exist. Below decks, the crew watches the action through monitors and periscopic lenses. Sweat and exhaustion streak their faces, but there is no hesitation. Every repair made in the past 72 hours is holding. Hull seams welded in desperation, engines patched with ingenuity, flight decks reinforced with raw determination. They are all standing the test of fire. Yorktown is not just surviving, she is shaping the battle. From the bridge, Captain Buckmaster sees Japanese planes falter under constant assault. Their formations break apart. Confusion spreads through enemy ranks. The unthinkable has happened. A carrier they assumed destroyed is now dictating the terms of engagement. It is a psychological blow as much as a physical one. Lieutenant Commander Harlan radios the pilots, voice steady despite the chaos. Maintain formation, target their carriers, show them what 72 hours of resolve can do. And the pilots respond with precision, launching wave after wave of attacks, forcing the Japanese into retreating arcs, miscalculations, and desperate defenses. The American fleet, emboldened by Yorktown's sudden resurgence, presses the advantage. Sailors and pilots alike realize that history is shifting beneath their feet. One ship, one crew, one miracle in 72 hours has turned disbelief into awe, and the enemy is already paying the price. But even in triumph, danger is never far. A Japanese dive bomber breaks through the fighter screen, plummeting toward the carrier. Can Yorktown withstand yet another strike, or will this miracle finally be undone? The dive bomber screams down from the sky. A shadow of death racing toward Yorktown's deck. Guns blaze in unison, tracer rounds streaking like fiery threads through the blue. You can almost feel the tension, every heartbeat synchronized with the trajectory of that plane. Time slows. 1 second stretches into eternity. Then, at the last possible moment, anti-aircraft fire finds its mark. The plane twists, explodes in a fireball just yards from the deck, sending shrapnel and smoke scattering. Yorktown shudders but holds firm. Below decks, the engines purr steadily, turbines spinning smoothly. Every repair, every sleepless hour, every improvisation has been vindicated in fire and steel. Captain Buckmaster lets out a long, shaky breath, gripping the rail. Around him, sailors cheer quietly, too exhausted to shout but aware of what just happened. The impossible has been done. A ship declared lost has faced the enemy and survived. High above, Japanese reconnaissance struggles to comprehend what they see. Reports flood in. Yorktown is not only operational but leading the American counterattack. Adam Nagumo's calculations, once precise, are thrown into chaos. For a moment, the command room in Tokyo is silent, the officers staring at maps and reports, unable to reconcile reality with expectation. Yorktown presses forward, planes roaring, guns firing, the deck a humming testament to human ingenuity and resilience. The miracle of 72 hours has not only saved a ship, it has altered the course of an entire battle. But the war is far from over. Even as Yorktown's planes strike, the Pacific remains a deadly chessboard of carriers, cruisers, and submarines. And though the miracle has stunned the Japanese, the next hours will demand courage, skill, and every ounce of the crew's resolve. As the sun dips toward the horizon over Midway, Yorktown rests among the fleet, battered but undefeated. You can almost feel the fatigue in the air, muscles aching, voices hoarse, eyes red from smoke and salt spray. But there is also something heavier, more profound: pride. This ship, once written off, has returned from the dead, not just to survive but to strike fear into the heart of the enemy. In Tokyo, Japanese officers gather in stunned silence. Reports describe the Yorktown's sudden resurgence, her planes raining destruction, her crew operating with uncanny precision. Admiral Nagumo's face is pale. The calculations, the plans, the confidence, they all crumble under a single, improbable fact. The Americans had repaired a crippled carrier in 72 hours, and she had returned to fight. Back on the Yorktown, Captain Buckmaster walks the deck alone for a moment, the wind tearing at his coat. He traces the scars along the metal, the patches and welds that barely hold. He knows every man aboard has risked everything, and the ship itself has survived against odds that should have been insurmountable. Every bolt, every rivet, every hour of sweat and blood has mattered. The miracle was not just in the speed of repairs. It was in the courage and ingenuity of those who refused to let her sink. As night falls, Yorktown's aircraft return to deck, engines whining softly, wings glinting in the moonlight. The crew stands silently, knowing that the Pacific War has been forever changed in these 72 hours. Japanese intelligence will remember this moment, the day they underestimated the Americans, the day Yorktown defied death and expectation, the day one carrier turned disbelief into awe. And somewhere deep in the ocean, the battle continues. Yorktown has survived, but the war rages on. The miracle has stunned the enemy, but history waits for no one.